Hi guys, this is Skittflash here, and welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man Battle Network 5. In the last part, things were a bit more exciting. Our dad got kidnapped, and now Scilab is infiltrated. Now the net is under attack. Maybe more is happening in this game than I'm giving credit for, actually. So it sure is quiet, yeah. Sure is quiet for an infiltrated base. You think everyone would be freaking out. Well, at least there's one guy freaking out. I'm sure he fits the bill. And the freaking out music is happening, so yeah, stuff's getting real. So the main system is out of control, so we gotta take it back because we're heroes. We've saved the world 4 times. No one will acknowledge that, sadly, but it is something that happened. But before we do that, we want to go on one little detour. Oh, actually, this is a necessary detour, actually. We're gonna jack into our dad's computer. The top scientists of Scilab, we're gonna steal all his stuff on his desktop because, that's just how... It's for the greater good. It will work. This is purple mystery data. You actually can't open that without special items to open it. They're known as locked mystery data, so you need to buy keys to open that, and typically those are really expensive, so I probably won't be opening any of those in the future. Some of them I'll have to be opening because, again, 100% and whatnot, so that's going to really suck because that's a lot of money. And money isn't exactly something that comes in abundance in this game. Money is actually very hard to come by. There'll be a way of getting money later, so that's not too bad. But anywho's, we got 12, now that we have 12 megabytes of memory, this is something that I really didn't even realize was a thing in the game. Basically, if you press select on any of these chips, you can regular it. What that means is that when we enter a battle, this chip will always appear first, which means we can always have it. A lot of the times, again, when it's just up to luck, and maybe like it's kind of luck based whether or not you actually get that chip. But we're going to be regulating copy damage. It takes 12 megabytes of memory to actually regular it, and we finally have 12 megabytes of memory. Because, we actually, what am I even trying to say here? Because of all the stuff we picked up, you can't actually regular a chip until you have enough memory to do it. I didn't even know that was a feature that existed in this game, but apparently it is. And really, copy damage is the only thing that I actually use regular memory for, because it is in my opinion, probably one of the most useful chips to have in the game when it comes to actually, normal virus busting. In terms of boss battles, it's actually incredibly useless, to be perfectly honest. But in terms of virus busting, it's going to be very useful. It's gonna streamline things a lot, so that battles are going to go by much more quickly, and that's just going to be good for the Let's Play. And it's going to be good for a normal playthrough, and you just want to do that all the time because. Unless I can think of I can't really think of anything better. Maybe like a really powerful chip that could kill all the enemies really quickly would be nice to to make a regular chip. But typically that would require a lot of memory, which we probably won't have a lot of memory until much later in the game. Oh, okay, cannon blank. Fortune is smiling upon me. One rule about chips is that you can't actually have more than 4 of one chip at any point in time, so you can only use 4. We can only use 4 cannons. However, cannon blank, again, as I've stated before millions of times, is much more useful than cannons A, B, or C. Not only that, cannon C is a chip we don't have, and we can actually pretend that cannon blank is cannon C, which will help us in the future, as I'll explain maybe if Fortune smiles upon me. So anywho's, this is the dungeon part. This is probably our first dungeon of the game, as you can say. It's puzzly. There's a lot of puzzle in this game. In each chapter, if you can divide the games into chapter, there's always one puzzle segment of the game, and this would be it. This chapter's puzzle is about switching blocks. Okay. We need to switch the numbers into a correct order, and this guy will give us hints for the things. The number for the data on the left is the days of the week. That'd be 7. That'd be 6, and the other would be 2 by process of elimination. He said the hint was that it was the opposite of 5 on the die. And fun little piece of trivia is that the opposite sides of the die all add up to 7. So 1 is on the opposite side of 6, 5 is on the opposite side of 2, 3 is on the opposite side of 4. I think it's an interesting bit of trivia. I learned it from this game, and whenever I get the opportunity to tell people that, I will tell people that. because it blew my mind the first time I learned about that. But yeah, so this is the puzzle room. Again, there's a puzzle in every chapter. This is probably where the main crutch of this game, I think, is that the puzzles are probably the least fun parts of this game. Because yeah, it's puzzles. The puzzles aren't too bad. What makes the puzzles bad is the fact that the random battles are still a thing that happens, which is very bad because, you know, it's hard to do, it's annoying to do puzzles when you're running into battles every, like, you know, 10 seconds, so it's just, it becomes a problem. Later in the game, you can buy things like repels that make it so you encounter enemies less, but the problem there is that, those cost a lot of money, as I've stated before. Money isn't exactly a thing that you find in abundance in this game. Contrary to what I just got. How long have you been playing, actually? 38 minutes, huh? Not too bad. But anywho's, yes, we'll just complete the puzzle, try not to complain too much. And okay, so let's see what the next puzzle is. Nickel, quarter, NA, and P. Okay, so you could just said it's nap. That would have been the better thing about doing, so you just have to, again, switch them into the correct order. If you take too many turns, or if you have things in the wrong order, then you actually get penalized and you have to do a battle. It's not too much of a penalty, but again, because you have to redo everything, the chances are you're probably going to run into even more battles, and then that's probably the true penalty. So yeah, I haven't really shown off. I've probably shown off copy damage, but I haven't really shown like the true capabilities of it. Again, you shoot it on that guy, and then all of a sudden, both of those guys get deleted because it copies the damage of what you did. It makes it so you get much more double deletes, which is really important for virus busting. If you get double deletes, basically your score goes way up. You get scored on things like how long the battle taken, how much damage you took, how much healing items you use, stuff like that. And basically, it's the basic action RPG stuff. You get rated on your performance. And the better you do in your performance, you know, the more stuff you'll get. But yeah, beside the point. So these are fire guys. They teleport to your location, like right in front of you and try to punch you. They're really easy to get counters on, because if you shoot them right before they appear, or like right as they appear, you're getting a counter on them. So those guys are really easy to counter, which is very nice. What are these guys? This one's going to be Owl, because I played this game a lot, and there's a W just there. Of course it's suspicious. And this is an animal that can be found in tar. Again, this game likes to be really riddle-ish. They're talking about how tar spelled backwards is rat. It's an animal you can find in tar. Hilarious, right? Sadly, lob chips don't exactly work too well on these guys. Because again, they teleport. They're never really still, and I totally failed that horrendously. I'm doing really bad, actually. And all we have is lob chips. This isn't, again, normally this would be something I'd actually just cut, because not too good. Again, that was, I forget what the chip was called, but I think it's called, like, something. It's a lob chip, basically, and it does 100 damage, which is a ton of damage, obviously. It's pretty useless against fast-moving enemies, but if you can actually stun an enemy, or if you know where they're gonna, like, or if they're stationary, then it can do a ton of damage on them. Plus, if you manage to get a full synchrono, like, bonus, for like 100 chips, then you do 200 damage, and then you do a ton of damage, and then you just wreck everything. And then it just, you know, that's the whole joy of this game, is like, you know, strategically just screwing everything over. That's, again, I'm just absolutely in love with the gameplay of this game. So one cool thing about copy damage is that, again, as I've stated before, swords aren't exactly something that you can use against anybody but the front row. But because of copy damage, you can essentially attack enemies that aren't in the front row with swords. So long as you actually can attack an enemy with a sword, then you can pretty much attack any enemy you want with a sword, which really helps. This is going to be Doc, because I play this game way too much. Starts with a D. And this is going to be Hall, because I played this game too much. Or recently. I've actually just practiced this game recently. And I still need to slow down my voice. I just failed that. I just realized. Doc is not spelt with an H. But anywho's, yes, copy damage. Best thing ever. What I haven't shown before, Buster Up increases your max Buster, your Buster capabilities by 10. Later in the game it's pretty useless because later in the game we'll have ways of actually increasing our buster ability by our own. I'm failing right now because they only give you exactly the amount of turns you'll need to actually like legitimately do it. So if you actually make one mistake, you might as well just end it all so you can actually start again, because yeah, you're not going to be doing it. You're not going to be doing it if you make a mistake. But again, as I've seen it before, swords, they can help us, you know, they can help us, I mean, copy damage can help us use swords more efficiently. Something to note about full synchrono mode is that if you use a chip that doesn't actually do damage, you won't actually waste your full synchrono, which is nice. So again, because area grab, I didn't have to waste my full synchrono using area grab because that's not a thing that happens. Again, if you do get damaged though, you will you'll lose your full synchrono, and you don't want that to be happening. Something else to note is that actually there are other moods other than just normal and full synchrono. There's worried. If you take too much damage without actually doing damage, you will enter worried state, in which case you can't do a thing later in the game. I don't know why I mentioned that now. It has no relevance right now. Mostly because we'll never be damaged enough to actually enter the worried state. I'm just being silly. But another thing that can happen is that you can also get angry. If you take enough damage while you're angry, then the next if you take like a ton of damage while angry, like maybe 200 or above, we couldn't even survive that right now because we don't have that much HP. But if you take a lot of damage without actually dealing damage, you'll get angry, which means the next chip will actually have twice as much damage. It sounds useful, but it really isn't, because taking that much damage isn't worth the rewards, honestly. And just keep in mind, while you're angry or worried, you don't have access to some things that you'll normally have when you're in a calm state of mind. So just keep that in mind, I suppose. And yes, the battles are beginning to look really samey. We have the same layouts. Well, that's fine, I suppose. Mark Cannon is a very cool chip. It does a ton of damage for the beginning of the game. It scans the first 3 rows, and if it comes in contact with an enemy, it will stop them in their place and actually attack them. The problem is, if they're fast-moving enemies that teleport, and most bosses in the game teleport, then it can actually miss them entirely and not do any damage. And another thing is that since it only scans the first 3 rows, then it's problematic, because if the enemy has 4 rows of space, like they will sometimes, then you're not going to be doing any damage to them, because, you know, it won't actually reach that far. Anywho's, I kind of jipped myself here. Not really. Those POW guys, after a few bounces, will try to ground pound your location and kill you, but you don't want to. But it helps your favor because that's when you can actually use swords on them. So the 3 puzzles here were was it something you can hop with to make music, and that would be hip, because hip hop, get it. The second quiz was there's 10 of them because toes. There's got 10 toes, and the third one was something about arms. I'm not really paying attention to the riddles. The riddles can be kind of, again, god dang it, so to speak, because, you know, they are really riddle-ish. They're kind of stupid, honestly. There's something just to know in time. But they are nice. I like them. It adds to the charm of this game. This game is very riddle-ish, I suppose you could say. And was that the last puzzle? I think it was, actually. Perfect. I'm actually doing this game faster than I was in my previous recording. Again, I've recorded this once before, and the whole reason I scrapped those recordings is because I was talking way too fast and I was doing things too fast. So I don't know what's different. I'm talking faster, yet things are going more slowly. It's kind of funny, actually. These guys are kind of... I can never really get the full synchrono for these guys. I mean, the counterattack for these guys. They're kind of just... I don't know. What I do know is that even if they're not, like, from the get-go vulnerable for swords, they are melee attackers, which means that they will get close to you to attack, which means you can actually use swords on them eventually to kill them. So that's nice to know about those guys. The chips they drop, the cactus balls, aren't actually very useful in this game. This game is actually a combo game. This is Team Proto Man as opposed to Team Colonel, kind of like Pokemon Black and White. All the Pokemon games, how they have, you know, companion games to them. There's many differences between Team Colonel and Team Pronoman that I will probably be explaining when they're actually more relevant, I suppose. But just know that that right now it's not what I'm even trying to say. Some chips are more useful in the other games than they are in this game. Like for example, the Mark Cannon chips would actually be S-coded. There's differences between this game and the other game that I'll get into later. But just keep in mind that the cactus balls aren't that useful in this game, so sad. But anywho's, in the next part, is there anything there? Yes, there is. Random access memory. Again, green is random. It will give you something completely random, but it's still nice to get, regardless. And yes, so here we are at the last puzzle, and so in the next time we will be taking on the last puzzle and finishing this dungeon, if you could call it that. But until then, this has been Skittflash. Hope you've enjoyed watching. Bye!